here's the thing. For everybody listening, don't make the same mistake the Bengals just did in any facet of your life.
People are going to get hurt. It's the hockey season.
What about the Jared Cook play on the sideline?
I was very tempted to just put defense.
I'm saying it right now. If Anthony Davis is out for the playoffs, they don't make it out of the first round.
Come on, Austin and I have been saying this ever since Joe Burrow got injured.
I don't really think the Dodgers are going to make the World Series this year. I feel like they'll make it to the NLCS.
The Fernando Tatis extension, because that really surprised me.
Like you said, Ovechkin, he's getting older. He hasn't been playing as well as I imagined. He's one of the greatest goal scorers of all time, but he hasn't started off this season as hot as I would hope.
Hi, I'm Jeff Allen, and you're listening to Outsiders Opinions with Kevin and Austin.
What's up, y'all? Welcome to our NBA Opinions of the Week. Today we're going to be reviewing the 21 to 22 trade deadline. This is not this year's draft, but the one before then, where the man that is my co-host's team traded with my team, Austin.
Yeah, I mean, I remember recording that episode, and we, if I remember correctly, we had different takes on it because you really wanted the KP to be traded, and I mean, I really wanted to get rid of Spencer Dinwiddie and Davis Bertans. They're one we got rid of, so I mean, it seems like it worked out for both teams at the time. What are your thoughts about that now?
Yes, so now KP's still in the Wizards, but I know there's that weird thing going on with him. He opted into his contract, so we'll have to see if he stays. But Dinwiddie, of course, was traded for Kyrie. But in that time, Dinwiddie, that season, I think it worked out for the Mavs. The Mavs went to the Western Conference Finals.
Yeah, but it's not a one-year trade is the problem.
Yeah,
and it wasn't just Dinwiddie that was traded for Kyrie.
Yes, that's true. But I'm not counting Dinwiddie in the Kyrie. I'm not counting the Kyrie trade. I'm counting about what did Dinwiddie do during his time with the Mavs.
Okay.
So how would you rate it?
I think it's still probably a tie because Davis Bertans has been much worse than he used to be his first year with the Wizards, and even his second year a little bit. And then his third year with the Wizards, he was atrocious. But next year we trade him, and then obviously it it works out. Dinwiddie, he needed a change of scenery, and so did KP. Both were not getting their best production. So I feel like that still worked out, especially because KP is still on the Wizards.
And how many games did he play? Because that was the thing. How many games did he play?
Last season?
Yes.
If I had to guess, it'd be 65 or something like that. But let me see.
Okay.
Kevin, it was 65.
It's 65. Wow, nice. Okay, that's pretty good.
Yeah, I only missed 17 games.
Yeah, I thought he'd missed 20. So that's a bonus, and I heard he had good rim protection with the Wizards.
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay.
His rim protection is definitely a plus because of his height, but he's not the best rim protector in the league or anything. A lot of his blocks come from the fact that he is 7'3".
Yeah, so I was gonna say I agree, Ty. It seemed to work out for both, but the thing is the Mavs moved on from Dinwiddie, and it seemed like they both needed a change of scenery.
Yeah, and I mean, Spencer eventually ended up going back to the team that he played his best at, which was the Nets. So I still think it worked out. Obviously, I don't necessarily think the Mavs won that trade, but we'll talk about that, I guess, next year because we'll look back a year and see how that works out.
Because the thing is, we're like, this was a big trade deadline even before then, but we're just looking at the deals done. This one was slipped in right beforehand. And another one which has gained much prominence is the Celtics got Derek White. And I thought it was just for Josh Richardson, but no, the Spurs got Josh Richardson, Romeo Langford, a 2022 first-round pick, and a 28 first-round pick swap.
Who did that pick become?
That's a very good question.
Because you said it was the 2022 pick, so that would have been last year's draft.
All right, let's see. I'm pulling it up, and the where is it? Oh my gosh. Oh, I think it was Blake Wesley.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. It
I'm
was
not.
Blake Wesley.
Yeah. 'Cause
Yeah,
you
I
have-
honestly think,
Yeah.
if anything, it's a tie, but I'd probably give the
Ooh.
win to the Spurs because what they have been able to do, they weren't going to need Derek White. They had no reason to keep him. So losing him, no matter how good he plays for the Celtics, isn't any worse for them. And the fact that they got a first-round pick that they're really high on, I think is beneficial. And the only way I'd really give the Celtics the edge here is if they actually won a ring. Because Derek White's played well, but if we look at the grand scheme of things, it hasn't fixed everything.
Okay. Is Derek White a free agent this year?
I do not know.
Okay. Because I'm curious. Okay. He's a restricted free agent in 2025, so he's got one more year. He's making about $17 million. Wow, he's 29. Okay, I thought he was younger, but so this is where I think I'm going to disagree. I feel like it's a win in the Celtics. It's not as much as a win as I thought.
Well, my thing is, if you're the Spurs, this is a trade you make in a heartbeat because you're getting talent back for a guy that you were not going to not even want to keep. Derek White is a good player. He's a starter for half of the league at least, and he's basically a sixth man for Boston. But the Spurs don't need that guy. And the fact that they got a first out of it, and you said a second as well, or is it a future?
Oh no, a first round pick swap. Yeah.
When was that?
That's in 2028.
Okay, so I mean, we obviously have to see how that works out because I mean, it's the Celtics somehow fall off a cliff then, and the Spurs get good. That trade could be even more valuable. But I look at it as what does the team want from this trade, and I don't think the Spurs got anything they didn't want to.
Okay, and then the Celtics, you think they of course
they
want
make
a
this
ring.
trade in the hopes that he will help them win a ring, and this is like obviously this isn't like the Mookie Betts trade, but it is in the scheme of things where when your team is contending at that high a level. Like the Mavs were not a Western Conference Final team before the KP trade, so obviously they got benefit out of it by making the KP trade. And the Wizards, I mean, both teams there, they needed change, but here the Spurs needed change, and Boston needed to win. When you're in that top 6, top 7, top 8, every trade is really graded on did it win you a ring. And while Derek White has had some very memorable moments in the Celtics uniform over his 2 years, and they made a final and an Eastern Conference final, it hasn't been enough. And Derek White's had some poor performances in there that have costed them some games.
Okay. I see what you're saying. What I think, and this would of course lead them to a ring, the Celtics then didn't really have a backup point guard or even a point guard. Well, they had Marcus Smart because they had tried it with Schroeder. And they eventually traded him, and then they got Derek White, who I think has exceeded their expectations. But it's tough to tell with the Spurs. I thought it was just a late swap. I didn't realize the Celtics gave up a first and a pick swap. So
so people are very high on Wesley. So I think at least
I think I'm going to go. Yeah, I'm going to go down to a tie. It's going to be a tie.
I'll still have
but I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
And it's tough to tell with the rookies. The one I really want to talk about, this one was third. I forgot it was around this time. But the one I really want to talk about, which is, I believe we are on opposite sides of this one too, was the 76ers getting James Harden and Paul Millsap. And the Nets got Ben Simmons, Seth Curry, Andre Drummond, a first-round pick, a 2022 first-round pick, and a 27 first-round pick. And I believe that first-round pick was I'm wondering where that first pick went. Or did the Nets? I'm looking at 2022. Where would that Nets pick be? I'm looking. Do you see or no? Austin?
Yeah, sorry. I was thinking it was all the other Spurs pick, but that's the Toronto traded that to the Spurs.
Is it? Maybe I'll check Basketball Reference.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing. I'm on Basketball Reference trying to find it.
But I'm curious with that. But I feel, or yeah.
What's confusing is Philly's first round pick that year was their own pick, meaning that this had to have been another one of the picks, which I didn't even know they had two, and then Brooklyn would have had to trade that.
Huh.
I mean, we really can probably just look at like what teams got traded, or what teams down here definitely did not have that pick.
Yeah, I don't remember the Mavs, or the Mavs must have traded out of that pick. But I think I'm okay. Yeah, and Basketball Reference doesn't even have it.
I mean, you have to click on the person and then look at the trades.
There's no person. It says 22 first round draft pick was later selected.
What?
Yeah.
It usually is a name right there.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, there's no name. But even with that trade, I think the Sixers won that trade.
Oh, the first round pick can be deferred to 2023.
Oh, it was deferred to 2023. Okay.
So that's the only thing. And then let me look at Tankathon to see. I think the Nets ended up trading that pick to the Jazz to get Royce O'Neal.
Okay.
Which, I mean, Royce O'Neal has been good for them.
Yeah, he's been great. So, I remember you were saying the Sixers won this, and I was saying Nets won this. I believe, if I'm correct.
Well, again, this is a trade that stipulates you don't trade for James Harden not to win a championship. And I think the fact that James Harden is a free agent, looking back, I'd have to change my mind.
Oh,
because
okay.
James Harden, you don't trade for James Harden to not win a championship. And when you have another top player like the 76ers do, in Joel Embiid and the rest of their team, you're not built to just get a good player. So I think I'd easily take the Nets to win this trade.
Even with Ben Simmons, to me, that's really dragging it down. Ben Simmons, and just he just wasn't playing.
Yeah, but Harden didn't want to be there.
Okay.
I think this was a trade that kind of initialized all the other trades where they've gotten so many good players out of it and prospects and everything else.
Okay. To me, Ben Simmons is really dragging it down. And that's why I'm going with the Sixers. Because he was successful, but they did not do well and they didn't win a championship. But I still think I would.
But you got to think, if you're not winning a championship with the trade, right, then you're not getting what you want. Again, you don't trade for Harden to not make it past the second round. Who did they lose to that year?
They lost. They got swept by the Celtics first round.
That's right. First round? I thought
Yeah.
second round.
I thought it was first round. Because second round was Bucks. And third round was Heat.
Okay.
I can check.
No, you're right. I think you're right. Yeah. But it definitely, I mean, they won one playoff series with Harden.
Yeah. So, what do you think the Nets wanted? They just wanted to get rid of Harden because
Yeah,
he
the
wanted to be
picks are worth it.
gone. Okay.
Because you're not trying to win a championship with that trade. You're building for the future.
Okay. I see what you're saying. But I can't believe we're on opposite sides again. Because I was on the Nets, and then I flipped to the Sixers. Because just because Ben Simmons to me,
I don't know, but it doesn't matter.
yeah.
It just doesn't matter because again, you're not trying to win a championship with the trade.
but to me, you at least want. They were betting on Ben Simmons, and to me, that bet has
You
completely.
can bet on the two
backfired.
first round picks you got.
That's true. Maybe I'll go tie. I'm gonna say tie.
I think that's somewhat fair because I don't think Harden or Ben Simmons had the desired result.
Yes. And maybe Harden resigns, or maybe he doesn't. That's why it's gonna be a tie. But
That won't matter for the trade though, because
Won't
when your
matter.
contract ends, you can't say the trade was good because he re-signed. He could have just signed that year anyway. You know what I mean?
okay, fair.
So like the Kyrie
Okay.
trade, I think it's already we can say what it was, and it's a loss because
Yeah, for
Kyrie
sure.
could leave, but if Kyrie resigns, the trade had nothing to do with that. That's not how you grade a trade.
I would argue though, but the Mavs, the last great free agent that actually worked out for the Mavs is Reggie Bullock.
But re-signing, it's been a little bit easier.
Re-signing, I think, gets the player in the building, and that's what they're betting on. But yeah, I get what you're saying. For the Mavs, though, I would say it's a special circumstance because no one wants to come to Dallas through signing.
They should take some notes from the Rangers then.
Well, yeah. Well, Mark Cuban won't open his checkbook.
Hmm.
He shouldn't have let Brunson walk, but he should have just money whipped Brunson. Keep the asset. But yeah, so that's something we can talk about next year. And okay, so I guess I went all ties.
You did end up going all ties.
All right. But yeah, just because it seemed the Mavs. What's the best trade out of this one?
Best trade meaning what?
Out of this three, which one do you think the teams in the trade got the best out of it?
Probably the Spurs against Derek White because they weren't going to use him anyway. It's not like where the Nets were giving up. The Spurs were already a not great team. They did not need Derek White, and to get a first and then a swap, I think is pretty big.
Okay. I think I'm going to say Mavericks and Wizards because they both got what they wanted in that
That's
trade.
understandable.
Okay. So let us know what you think in the comments. Thank you for listening to NBA Opinions of the Week.